website. The only place you can find forms is through your Forms tab. Now, we're going to use these forms for all sorts of things in your site. You can really be imaginative with these. This is what we would create your membership application in. It's also what we would create things in, like your event registrations, if you had surveys, if you had just really anything that you needed to collect information from your members on. Sponsorships, partnerships, donations, you would use forms for those types of things. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Forms and Form List.
Is there any way that you can make the font big? It's hard to see. It's just really little. Can we make it bigger?
Is that any better?
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So these forms, that might be a little bit too big. So in this area, this is going to be your form list. Right now we have a membership application and a scholarship application for your forms. Over time, you're going to create a lot of forms. And once you've collected a form submission on a form, you won't be able to delete it. That means the form will always be there. So over time, you're going to have a ton of forms. To kind of help navigate the forms that you have in the system, we have a search bar up here in the top right-hand corner. This will allow you to search your forms by name. Your forms will also always be listed in alphabetical order. So if you're using forms, but you don't need them right in front of your eyes, you could put some X's or Z's in front of them, and that'll drop them down to the bottom of the list. I have some associations to do that just to help with organization. Now, lastly, we also have recently created a really cool status, so you can have your forms published, unpublished. You can also archive your forms. So if you want to come back to it later, but you really don't need it at your fingertips, you can archive it anytime you want to go back and find that archive form. You would just select Show Archived Forms.
Okay.
Any questions so far?
No.
Awesome. To create a new form, we're going to use our big green button, Create a Form, up here in the top left-hand corner. Now, when we name our form, let's just create an event registration form. When we create a form, we're going to name our form first. Now, the name that we use is internal to you. Nobody else sees this name but you, so you can name it whatever is going to help you understand or recognize what this form is used for.
Okay.
Then we can use the form for membership or use this form for event registrations. So there's two options that we can choose from, but there are actually 4 options that we can pick. So let me back up for a second. Our forms, by default, are comprised of different sections. Every form you create will always have a login section, a summary section, a payment section, and a confirmation section, no matter what type of form it is.
Okay.
The body of your form can be one of 3 types of sections. It can either be a membership application section, an event registration section, or a general section. What we select here at this point is going to tell our form which of those sections to pull in for us to create the body of our form. So if we check that this form is used for membership, our system is going to automatically pull in the membership section into the form to use as the body of the form. That determines that that form is used for membership.
Okay.
We could say that it's for event registration. That's going to automatically bring in the event registration section of the form. That tells the form it's going to be used for event registration. We could check both. That means that it's going to bring in the membership section and the event registration section for us. The form could be used for both items. It's going to have both sections.
Okay, and what are these sections? Is it just the setup of the body of it itself, or?
Exactly. Yeah, it's just the body of the form itself. So where we're going to be asking all of our questions, so I mentioned the login section is a default section. There's always a login for somebody to log in to take the form. Then there's the body of the form, and that can be either the event registration section, the membership application section, or a general section.
Okay.
That's where you ask questions of your members. What member type are you joining as, or what day of the conference are you coming to? Any questions we have, we're going to put in the body of the form.
Okay.
Then we have, like I mentioned, the summary section, which allows them to summarize the form, a payment section if there's payment that needs to be applied, and a confirmation section, which is just going to send them a confirmation email.
Okay.
So I mentioned there are 3 different options, right? We've only seen 2, the membership and the event. If you have a general form that you're creating, meaning it's anything else other than for membership and events registration, then we're going to bring in a general section, and that will allow us to use the form for anything else we need to use it for.
Okay.
So for our example, we're just going to create an event registration together.
Okay, but for the setup options, if you need an option other than the 2 that are offered, you can create that yourself?
You would just check neither.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So I'm going to choose event, and we're going to save. This is creating an event registration form. The body of the form is the event registration section. So now we're inside the form builder. The form builder is comprised of a left column and a right column. The right column is like a rough draft. It's showing us what the form is going to look like, but it's just not pretty yet. It's not in your template. This also is going to take us through the different sections. So I mentioned earlier there's a login section by default in every form. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Now, we could look at the properties for the login section. So there's a properties button up here. And this allows us to change a couple things about the login section. We can rename the login section. So I mentioned in the beginning, event registration is not what your members will see. The name that your members will see as they navigate through the form is going to be whatever name is on each tab as they move from section to section.
Okay.
So if you wanted this to say login to register for our upcoming conference, that's going to populate on the tab, and this will give them a little bit more information as they navigate into the form.
Okay.
Some other things that we can do to change the login section. We can turn technically the login section off. We could disable it.
Okay, so you don't have to log in to register.
But 10 times out of 10, you're going to want to keep this on.
Okay.
The reason why is because if there is no login section, then this person's registration is recognized as an anonymous submission. It's an anonymous form submission. That's not good for a couple of reasons. This information won't be stored in their profile. It won't be searchable. You won't be able to send a confirmation email.
Okay.
You won't be able to collect information from this form to save in their profile. So if we ask them a question, like what's your physical address, and you don't already have that collected on your member, if you ask it on this event registration form, it's going to take that info and store it in their profile as long as they've logged in. If they haven't logged in, it doesn't know where to store it. It doesn't recognize who that person is.
Okay, so that's
in the database.
Okay, so that little tab there is basically just don't touch it.
I would always leave this on unless you had a survey. I have some associations that'll send surveys after conferences. And those are fine if they're anonymous.
Okay.
You can choose what type of users can use this login section. So what that means is that, do you only want new members, or is it okay if existing members log into the section? So if I say,
yeah, if someone registers for an event and they're not a member, they still have to add themselves to the system.
Exactly. So if I'm not a member and I'm registering as a non-member, I would be registering as a new user, and it would create a prospect profile for me.
Okay. Okay.
And then lastly, multiple submissions. So if we are allowing, so we really don't ever want to allow multiple submissions, because probably what's going to happen is your members are going to go, did I register for that? I don't remember. I'll just do it again. And then they're just going to register again. And now you've got 2 registrations for one person, 2 invoices, and you're having to go back and void invoices. It becomes a pain. So as long as we don't allow multiple submissions, we can never run into that problem, because it won't allow somebody to register twice.
Okay.
The only time I could see turning on multiple submissions would be helpful is if this was a donation form, because your members can donate as often as they want to, right?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Please.
Exactly. It's like if you want to donate every day, that is just fine. So you could turn that on for that. So that's kind of a overview of the login section. Any questions on this login section?
No.
Okay. The next section that we're going to look at is the event section. So notice there's a membership section. It's always built into every form, but it's grayed out because it's disabled, so we can't use it.
Okay.
So the next live section is the event section. This is what we're going to build out.
Okay.
So this is where we're going to add all the fields. We can look at the properties for the event section. For the events, there are some different things we could do. We could change. We don't want it to, usually we don't want it to just be called event section. We would want it to be called like 2018 conference. And the reason we'd want to make sure the event name is the same as whatever the name of this event is, because if you remember on the home page of your website, there's that event dashboard where it pulls in the 3 most recent past events, 3 most recent upcoming events.
Okay.
It pulls the name from here. So if you leave it just event section, you're never going to know what event it's talking about.
Okay.
You can choose the event date. If there is a limit of how many people can register for this event, you would want to add that in. So let's say there's only 200 seats at your upcoming conference. Once that 200 registrations has been reached, you can disable the form or just disable the section. If this was being used for a membership application and an event registration, then you could just disable the event section. That way people could still take the membership application. Does that make sense?
What circumstances would you use both?
I've only had one association that did, and it was because their members had to renew their dues before they could register for the event. The event registration, the membership application does not only double as for new members, it also can double as a renewal application. So
Okay.
she made her members renew their dues before they were allowed to register for the event.
Okay. 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 That could be handy.
I would typically just keep them as separate forms. I think it makes more sense to keep them as separate forms.
Okay.
You don't need to worry about this. This doesn't apply to your association, but this does. Allow guest registrants. So if you want your members to be able to bring guests, you would want to turn this on. You can limit how many guests they can bring. So if I'm only allowed to bring one guest, then you would just put in the number 1. After I've registered one guest, I wouldn't be able to register any additional guests.
Is there a fee for a guest or not?
We could add a fee, which we'll look at in just a moment. Okay. And then lastly, do you want prospect profiles created for guest registrants? So if you think most of your members are just going to be, if it's like a gala and you think most of your members are just going to be bringing spouses, you don't really need guest prospect profiles created for them.
Okay.
But if it's an educational event and you think that guests are people who are actually wanting to be a part of the association, it would probably be a good idea to allow those guest profiles to turn into prospect profiles, so that you kind of have some additional email addresses you could be reaching out to.
Okay, great.
And then you've got your permissions. So we've looked at permissions a lot in the system already, and we've talked about how this has to do with what members can see. So do you want any of your member types to be able to see the event section? The answer would be yes. Did that make sense?
Yeah, can you click back on that in the edit group permissions? This group. Okay. So yeah, I mean, yeah, all right.
So if anybody's allowed to see it, then you would just leave it on so that anybody could see this form. If only members were allowed to register for this event, you would just turn off prospects. You would uncheck prospects. Prospects would not be able to register for this.
Okay.
So this is our event section. We're going to be building this out together. Then you have a summary section. This is just allowing your members to review the information that they provided, just to confirm that the information they provided is correct. As we add fields to the event section, the summary section will add those same fields so that you can check. So right now, only registrant name is in the event section. Your members are allowed to go back through and make sure that they provided the correct name. But as we add more fields will be added to the summary section.
Okay.
We have a payment section. You'll always want to make sure this payment section is set up. So we would always want to make sure we've selected our payment processor, our invoice template, and then do we want to allow them to pay later with an invoice or override so basically what this is saying is if they are able to pay later with an invoice, that means that they can register and open invoices created for them and saved in the system.
Okay.
If they have to pay at time of form submission, then that means they wouldn't be able to complete the form submission unless they also apply payment.
Okay.
Lastly, the invoice templates have a date designated as to when the invoice is due. So usually it's typical like 30 days. What we were hearing is that we didn't want people's invoices to have to be due until the date of the event. So instead of the invoice being due 30 days out of the time that they've registered and the invoice was created, you would just override the invoice's template's due date, and it could be due the same day that the event held place.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Okay, so the invoices that I just went over, I mean, I went in and did that in the system. That's what we're talking about right now.
The invoice templates is what we're talking about, but it doesn't look like, it looks like these have still not been completed.
Oh, no, I did them. I did them. If you click on I did it. I went into the default, I did it all.
But remember, you would have needed to create more than just these two. So you needed to create an invoice template for every type of invoice the system could create for you. So that would be like event, donations, sponsorships, partnerships, maybe even a miscellaneous.
Okay, I thought the default invoice would cover all of that. It doesn't?
Because you really want them to be a little bit more specific.
Okay, all right. Okay.
They don't have to be. You can use the default for everything if you want to, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, I edited all the emails and that stuff. I mean, we don't have that many. I mean, it's just for events and for membership, really.
That's fine then. Yeah, we can just use that one.
I mean, I obviously, if I need to create a new one, I can go in and do it, but I don't need to make things harder than they need to be, you know?
Yep, that's totally fine. So that'll be totally fine. How about the invoice settings? I think you just needed to add your organization logo and then your invoice, what invoice number you want your invoices to start at.
Okay.
Did you get the attribute security and profile owner attribute security done?
I did.
Awesome. So you don't want corporate membership contact to be able to see anything.
We don't have I don't know. I don't have anything. I only have full members right now. So I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, and I actually needed to talk to you about that, but we can do that later.
So this still needs to be done.
What was that?
The attribute security.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I did that. Okay.
So what you're doing when we're looking at this is we're saying, if I'm an admin, what am I allowed to do and see in other people's profiles? Technically, as an admin, you can edit whatever you want to edit. You're not limited.
Okay.
But then you got to use your drop down. Public. Is public allowed to see anything about your members? Are you going to have a public facing directory at all? If not, prospect. Are you going to have a prospect facing directory? If not, full member. What are your full members able to see and do in other full member profiles? Do you want them to have that social community aspect where they can network with other members?
Yes.
What can they see and do in corporate membership context?
I did everything down to the bottom. I think there was stuff at the bottom that I think I did that they could edit their name and all that kind of stuff. Because
this isn't what they can do in their own profile. This is what they see and do in other people's profiles.
Okay.
So there's two pieces. Profile owner attribute security is what they can do and see in their own profile.
Okay.
Attribute security is what they can do and what they can see in other members' profiles.
Okay.
So this still needs to be done, but the invoice settings, the invoice templates is totally fine.
Okay.
And then the invoice settings needs to be done. You just need to add your logo that you want to appear on your invoice, and then you'll need to determine what invoice number you want the system to start out with you.
I'll do that right after this.
Awesome. So I'm going to go back in our event registration. Okay. So we've been through all the different sections that make up our form. The login section, conference section, the event section, summary section, payment section. Then we also actually need to look at the confirmation section. That's the last section down here. After your member takes the form, a screen's going to pop up. Right now, it would say, thank you, your form has been submitted successfully. If you want this to say something a little bit more specific, you can edit the confirmation page and change whatever verbiage you want to change here.
Okay.
Now, not only is this cool, but we can also look at the properties for the confirmation section and set up a confirmation email. This is cool because this will also send them an email with their form confirmation. You can even use the merge data tool at the bottom down here to merge in things like their submission date, their submission total. You can even add in things like fields from the form, their registrant name. Now, this is useful to the member because they're receiving this confirmation, which acts almost as a receipt. But the even better part about this is you can add a BCC recipient on this confirmation email. So what that means is not only would they receive this, but you could receive it in your inbox too. So you're not having to come into member clicks every day to see what registrations are new, what's new in the system.
Okay.
You're getting notified when people are registering, and you're able to see exactly who it is.
Only if you check that are you notified. It doesn't do it automatically.
Exactly, and you have to actually add your email in here.
Okay.
So you'll want to set that up for each form. As you know, if you made a new form, you'd want to make sure that you're adding that.
Okay.
All right, any questions on the different sections that make up the form?
No, I mean, where is it in the, I'm sorry, can you scroll down a little bit from the event registration? Where can you like make it pretty and make it in what section do you put the details about everything?
We're getting there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You're fine. So we've looked at all the different sections that make up the form. Every time you would have noticed that I've looked at properties of a section, it's showing me on the left-hand side what I can do under the Element Properties tab. So Element Properties is anything I can change about a specific section or a specific field on the form. So this existing users field, if we wanted to change this verbiage, we could change that using our left-hand column under the element properties tab. So element properties is what can we specify, what can we customize about a specific section or a specific field on the form. Then we have our form settings tab. That's the tab on the far left. So while element properties tells us exactly what we can change or edit about a specific field or section, form settings, anything we do in form settings is affecting the form as a whole. Anything we do here is changing the entire form.
Okay.
Things like the form name. You can add a form description. This form description is internal as well. The form alias. So if you remember from our content training, the form alias is what makes up the URL of the form. The form status, if we want it published or archived or unpublished. Is there a form expiration date? Who can see the form at all? So not just the event section, but who's even allowed to see this form? Would be those permissions. Date-based pricing and discount codes. Date-based pricing and discount codes can only be used for, what's going on here? Date-based pricing can only be used on event registration forms or general sections. It cannot be used for a membership application. That's true for date-based pricing and discount codes. Date-based pricing, though, is great for early bird or late fees for event registrations.
Okay.
Discount codes would be if you had a sponsorship form and you needed somebody to be able to register for that sponsorship and get a discount, or if you had an event that the sponsor was going to register through.
Okay.
They'd be able to do that through a discount code, and they could type in at the end like sponsor in all caps, and it would give them a discount.
Okay,
You
so
can set those up.
there's sometimes like which one would you do if sometimes we have classes, and if you have 3 or more people register, you get like 20% off. Would you do that as a like add discount?
Yeah, the system's not going to be able to recognize though, like that you've registered.
It would be up to the person who's registering.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
fine.
exactly. Exactly. And then last down here at the bottom, forward URL. When somebody finishes and submits the form, what's going to happen is it will take them by default back to the home page of your website. If you don't want them to go back to the home page of your website, you might want them instead to go to a page of more information about the event or more information about membership benefits. You could put that link in here. So when they click finish on the form, it's going to take them to whatever link that you have in this area. If you don't put anything by default, it's the home page of your website.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Any questions on form settings? So these are things that are going to affect the entire form.
Mm-mm.
Awesome. Now we're going to start working under our add form elements. So if you're ready to add an element to the form, you're going to go to add form elements. This is how we're going to start adding fields and building out our form. Now, some of these should look familiar. We have our built-in attributes. We've talked about built-in attributes a good bit, and our custom attributes. Built-in and custom attributes communicate with the individual's profile and will either store the information that you've collected on the form into their profile, or it will pull the information from their profile onto the form. So if you've already collected their address and you've already stored that in their profile, they don't have to fill it out again. It'll auto-populate from their profile for you and for them.
Is that only if they register, if they log in as a member, will it automatically be there for them?
Exactly. Okay. They would have to log in for that to happen though.
Okay. How about if they log in as a guest? Would it be on there then?
It would not.
Okay. Only members.
Exactly. Well, if they have a prospect login, it would do that for their prospect login. It would bring it in from their prospect profile.
Okay, yeah, that's what I meant, prospects. Okay.
Yeah. So if we want to start building out some items, we've got our built-in attributes. We've already got name built on here. We could ask for their physical address. So I'm just grabbing and dragging onto the form.
Oh, cool.
And notice I've got a different set of element properties. Do I want to make this required? There's the little red asterisk. I can add
that again. I'm sorry. Can you do that one more time?
Yeah. So if I click back on that field, it's going to show me the element properties again. And I just use this drop down. Okay. So it could be just available, or it could be required.
Okay.
We can add more form elements. Maybe we want to add their email. I'm just grabbing and dragging. We want to keep all of our fields in this event section. Same thing with the email. Maybe I want to make this required. There's the red asterisk. Add form elements. Maybe we want to add the organization name, their company name. Now, we may not want the organization to read organization. This may be confusing to your members. We may want to call this company name. And I can make this required.
Okay.
This time it's a toggle instead of a drop down. Sometimes you'll have to kind of look because they might be a little bit different. Something else I want to point out here, anytime you have a company, anytime you have a label change, so anytime you're changing a label, make sure you're copying and pasting that into the export name. The export name, if you exported all of these form submissions into an Excel file, this export name is going to be whatever the column header for that column of information is. So if you don't update the export name, you're not going to know what that column is in the form.
Okay.
We can add more form elements. Maybe we want to add a phone number. Same thing, I can make it required. So these are our built-in attributes. All this information will either populate from the individual's profile or be stored in their profile. Then we could add more form elements. We can look at our custom attributes. So these are those fields that were custom to your association that we created. Certified, we can grab and drag. We could make it required.
Certified, like they're a certified member?
I don't know. This is a custom attribute that you have. Do you remember what this was from your database?
No.
Okay, we'll go back and look. Then we've got college attended. So they would type in what college they've attended. And then interest, I think, was something we've been working on adding together. You were going to come up with a list of interests to add in here, I think.
No, I actually didn't have any of these on the, I mean, I don't know how they made it in there because they were on the list, but I didn't use them for anything. So they wound up in here, but that's not information I even care about. So I'll never even use those.
You don't want any three of these?
No.
We can delete this one. We can delete interest. We'll have to see about certified, where that's pulling from. All right, we'll go back in this event registration. So now we'll just delete these. So I'm just deleting these by clicking on the field, looking under my element properties, and at the very bottom I can delete. There's a delete option.
Okay, and they're only in there anyway if you drag them in, correct?
Correct, but now I've just got to get rid of certified, but those other two are gone.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to even more, I mean, getting rid of it doesn't, I mean, I guess unless it affects something longer term, because I just won't use it.
Okay, no, that's fine. Awesome. So if you have any additional custom attributes you might want to collect on your members, you can always build those out and add them to the forms. And just keep in mind, it will take that information that you've collected and store it in the member's profile. All right, so then we have, so built-in and custom attributes are going to take that information and store it in the member's profile so that you can search on it later on. Now, there are going to be times when you don't need the information to be searchable. You just need it for the form submission. So it's something that you wouldn't need to search on, 2 years from now. And so, oops, I'm sorry. So in order to do that, we're going to use form fields. So a form field will collect the information, but only for the form submission. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay. So this is a form field is only if you don't care about saving it?
Exactly. It's only going to be in the form submission, not going to be in their profile.
Okay, but yeah, when would you, I guess, when would you use that based upon the fact that you really want to keep all the information about people who are registering for things?
Yeah, exactly. Great question. So something that you may not need on your, and so let me back up. These form fields are basically how we created custom attributes. And so these are going to allow us to collect different types of information for the form submission, right? Not in their profile. So one example would be the text box. I just grab and dragged. We can use this for anything that we would want to collect, anything that we'd want them to just type in. So what we could do is say, how would you like? That's
okay, because like there's times that I'm asking them which class they're registering for because there's a number of ones to pick from. So that would
so you wouldn't need that in their profile, right? You would just need that in the form submission. A common one, how would you like your name to appear on the name badge? That's usually something you ask every single, because they may want to change it depending on the type of event that it is, if it's formal or casual. So this isn't something you'd really want to keep in their profile. It's just something you'd allow them to fill out every time there's a new form submission, or every time there's a new event.
Is there a text option in the other information collection section, in the form elements? Oh yeah, there is. Okay, I see it.
That's what we just grab and drag to this, and this is only storing in the form submission, not their profile.
But it what I'm saying? Okay, is there in the one that you say that is saved? That's the built-ins.
Built-in and custom attributes.
Okay, is there a text box in the built-ins?
It wouldn't be just be a regular text box. It would be an actual specific field. It wouldn't be general. It would be very specific.
Okay, because okay, that's fine.
What are you thinking?
How would you like your name to appear on your name badge? I guess for one event, it's fine, but that might be a question to have in the built-in. You know what I mean? Like there's certain, you really, that could be a question that could be answered once for them instead of being asked every single time.
So that would be a custom attribute is what that would end up being. So you'd create a custom field.
And I can add that in.
So we could go to database and attributes, down to your custom attributes, and I would just copy this existing one. I'm going to edit this, and we're going to call it, how would you like, and make it a text box.
Okay, and this will come up in the membership application?
If we would have to physically add it.
Okay. But if they're looking at their profile, it's there.
Exactly. So if we went back into the event registration form, we could select edit. And now in the form, instead of having this text box that we created manually, we could go to our custom attributes, and here it is in our custom attributes, which tells us it would store it in their profile.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Awesome. Other form fields.
So
State.
I'm sorry, real quick. Anything that's in built-in is in attributes already.
Built-ins are items that MemberClicks created for you. We have them built in because we know all associations collect this information on their members. So built-ins are already all created in the system for you, but you have to add which ones you want to add to your form. So we manually added all of these together just a second ago.
Right. I saw that. Yeah. I guess and then custom attributes, I can add those, but they'll be there every time.
Yeah. So custom attributes would be things that you would add based on fields that are specific to your association or specific to what you want to ask your members. And they'll always be under this custom attributes. The same thing. You'll always be able to come in here and add them to your forms, any form that you're creating.
But they're only added in if you drag them over.
Exactly.
Okay.
So just to show you an example, if I went back to the membership application and I select edit, I can dive in here and we can add in the membership application, how would you like your name to appear on your name badge?
Okay, and that was under custom?
Exactly.
Okay.
We can add in more built-in attributes like the address. Oh, I want this to be above. There we go. Address, email, phone number. I'm just grabbing and dragging these in. It's the same concept, but this is the membership application because this is a membership section. Organization. And then if we wanted to make these required, we could just click on each field and toggle on required.
Okay.
So we're going to go back in that event registration. So the couple of other form fields, so only being saved in the form submission, not their profile. We also have state. This is going to give your member a drop down of any of all the states. I don't know a great example for this one. I usually do something silly and say, what state would you like to have the 2018 conference? You would not need to know. You wouldn't need to store that in their profile, right? You would just need it for that form submission.
Right.
I'm going to skip these two and we're going to come back to them in just a second. Image allows them to upload an image. So you could say, I had an association who did like a banner contest. Upload your banner for the upcoming conference here. So they had their members design their banners for their marketing basically for their event.
Okay.
File allows your members to upload a file. So this could be, I had somebody use this for like financials. Please upload your financial transactions here.
Like for the scholarship, they have to send in their school records and stuff.
Now that'd be one thing. Do you want their school records and stuff to be kept in their profile, or do you only need it for the form submission?
Well, they wouldn't even have profiles because it's high school students.
Perfect. So you could say, please upload.
They can just email me. It's okay.
Well, you can say, please upload your school what did you call them?
Records, I
Records.
guess.
Here. That'd be no problem. That'd be really a great use of this.
Okay.
Date would just be any date that they could put in, and it'll pop up a tiny calendar. So you could say, what date would you prefer to have our upcoming conference? And then at the very top, country, just like school, just like state, it's just a drop down of all the countries.
Okay.
Then there's two special fields, number and selection set. Number allows your members to only upload a number, meaning no special character spaces, anything like that. It's purely just an identification type number, some type of ID. So that's not super useful. But what is useful is there's a new field on here that we can use, this new toggle price field. You can use this number as a monetary field on your form. So we could say, how many tickets do you need for the upcoming class? Class tickets are not $1. Maybe for each class it's $25. If they say they need 5, it would do 5 times 25, and that would be the total amount on the invoice.
Okay. Can you do more than one of those if there's 2 different prices?
Yeah, absolutely. You could do 2 number.
Just drag number over again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Number can also be used, so as a price field, we just use it as a price field, but we can also use it as a, notice there's a number input, currency input.
Okay.
So if we select currency input, they can put in however much they want. This would be, how much would you like to donate? And they can put in however much they want to donate here.
Okay, cool.
Now, anytime you have a field on your form that's collecting a monetary amount, we need to tell that money where it's going in your financials. So the way that we do that is this big button that we see at the bottom. We'll see it on every monetary field, edit payment processor and revenue account. So here we're going to make sure we've got our payment processor selected. How do we want the invoice to read? How do we want the invoice line item to read? We don't want it to say number. We don't even want it to say how much would you like to donate. We would want it to say donation total, right?
Okay.
And then the revenue account, where is this money going? Does that make sense? Why would we need to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Will it not let you out of there until you do that? Most likely, I would think.
Say that again.
Will it keep you in that section until you do remember to edit the payment processor and reverse account?
It won't. So
Okay.
It's really important that that's just a part of making sure you get in the habit of that.
Okay.
Now there's one other form field that I wanted to talk about that I said was special, and that's the selection set. So if I grab and drag the selection set in, this could be what classes would you like to attend? Now we can make this a price field, and we can edit the selections, option limits, and base prices. So what this means is we could say maybe they want to attend the Monday class, the Tuesday class, the Wednesday class, the Thursday class. Maybe they want to attend the Friday class. We can say, okay, well, the Monday class is 25, the Tuesday class is 25, Wednesday's 50, Thursday's 75, and Friday is 100. We could add in another option, all 5 classes. And we could say if they want to come to all 5 classes, they only have to pay $150. So they get like a discount if they come to all 5.
Okay.
We can add limits. So maybe you only have 100 seats available for each of these classes. Once somebody chooses one of these options 100 times, it won't be available. So you can add limits. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If they were able to, obviously in this option, they could choose more than one. We'd want to change the display type. So right now, this is a single select radio, meaning they can only choose one option. They have the option to choose multiple. So there's two single select. One is a radio, which is what you see on the screen. One is going to be a drop down. It's going to give you this, and you'd have to drop down to see the different options. This is useful if there's a lot of options. Multiple select means that they can choose more than one. They could choose multiple of these options. And then same thing, there's a multiple select, but it's a drop down. So they could choose multiple as well here. Now you mentioned, if I go back to add form elements, the last item that we have that we can add is presentation. You mentioned, how do we add information? So we would do that through presentation items. So if we messed up making, did you have a question?
One second. What do you need? How are you getting there? Are you staying over there? Okay, this is really not a good time to do this. Okay, I'll see you later. Okay, go, please. I'm doing something. Sorry. Okay. I'm cool.
All right, awesome. So if we messed up what type of form we were creating in the beginning, if we forgot to check that it was for an event, or if we forgot to check, or if we checked something we weren't supposed to check, we can always bring in sections manually. So here's that event section. Here's the general section. We can just grab and drag these in. And then we can also just delete them as well. So this is how we can add in some sections if we miss that part up.
Okay.
We can also add some a horizontal line. This would act as like a separator between sections on our form.
Oh, I'm sorry, where was that?
That was called a horizontal line.
Okay.
And it just created this separator.
Okay.
A label is like a text box. So for this label field, you could edit the label text, and this is where you would add directions, disclaimers. You could say, please choose all of the following classes you wish to attend. And this is kind of giving them a heads up what they'll be needing to do.
Okay.
I also see a lot of times a label at the bottom of forms that'll say something along the lines of, please note, no refunds 30 days prior to class start date, or something like that.
Yeah.
Page break. You can the only place you can add a manual page break is on a general form. A lot of times I see these used if you have like a long survey and you're asking 20 questions. A lot of people will add a page break between each question. I mean, every like 5 questions. So you like answer 5 questions and then hit next. And then you'd see the next 5 questions and you'd hit next, versus having us ongoing scrolling page.
Okay.
And then lastly, we've got white space. White space is just another type of separator. It's just adding white space between our fields. So if we wanted to, so that's gone through all of the different elements that we can add. If we wanted to view this form on the front end of the site, what we would do is use our incognito window. So we're going to test using our incognito window. And we're going to take the first part of your URL, which is that ELLP. We're going to plug that in. Then we're going to take our form alias, just like when we were looking at content. And this is what your form looks like on the front end.
Okay, so it won't just generate a fake form for you to look at.
Correct. This is like a real-time form. I mean,
Okay.
I guess it's not like live on your site yet.
Right, but it won't just do that. You can't just click preview or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, you would actually need to test it on as if you were a member coming in to view the form.
Okay. Is there like a place on member clicks that goes over all these steps? Because there's no way I'm going to remember all of this.
Yes, and I'm going to send you the recording from our call today as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think that sometimes, yeah, the recording's great, but I think sometimes if it's just a step-by-step too, that's easier than having to go listen to a whole recording to get to what you want, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you visited our resource center, our help area, let me make this bigger for you, has all of these steps. We would just want to go to the member clicks documentation. And then there's a whole section all about documents on forms that you have access to.
Okay, cool.
So we could test our form. I'm going to log in as a new user. So I'm just putting in my email and registering. I can create my password. It can be as simple as the number 1. And then it would take me into the form. So who am I registering for this event? I'm going to register myself. And I would begin filling out my information. Does this look good?
Mm-hmm. Is there a way, and I guess, yeah, we did that before, to put a little image or something on the previous page?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can add in any of these boxes, like in this existing user text box, register for this event below. You can edit these event descriptions, put whatever verbiage you want, and just as we've done in our other editor, use our image tool and add an image. So just like we were using our editors when we were looking at, when we were looking at the content.
Okay. Do you have to take them into the, do you have to make all the images? You don't have to make this 220 by 220.
No, these images can be whatever size you want them to be.
Okay. Can you, okay. Okay. And then when you are finished with this, does an email go out to everybody?
When you say everybody, what do you mean?
All of the, like when I make an event in Star Chapter, it automatically sends an email to members, non-members, anybody that I choose to send it out to, announcing it, and then people can register for it.
Gotcha. So it's not going to send it out automatically, but you could, what I would recommend doing is saving a template in your contact center, and then you can just send it out of your contact center.
Okay.
Which we'll definitely talk more through, and when we're ready, we'll send out the welcome email together to everybody.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, but you can just basically bring in a template, have a link that'll go directly to this, so that you can send it out and say, hey, make sure you register for our upcoming event, and then all they have to do is click on the link and they're at the registration for it.
Okay, our URL is going to be, I'm sorry, it's different now? It's not going to be electricleague.com anymore?
It will be the same. That's why you have the name servers.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, here's my question for you, and I know we're running over here. When am I mean, I can't let go of the Star chapter though. I can't really go live until I let go of Star chapter, and I really can't let go of Star chapter until after this event on the 19th, which I have people registering for.
That's fine. So I know we talked about how you were going to talk to Star Chapter and see if you changed it, what it was going to go back to, because like MemberClicks has ELLP.memberclicks.net. Once we become your domain name, if you changed from MemberClicks one day, we would go right back to ELLP.memberclicks.net. Star Chapter should have a default domain name like that as well. So if you want the MemberClicks website to take over, you can, and you would just use an external link from the form that you have going on and put it into MemberClicks for this event.
Okay.
If you wanted to use MemberClicks as the new website sooner than that. If not, then you can just stay with Star Chapter until that's run through, and then you can move to MemberClicks.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to keep it simple, and I actually feel like maybe even we should wait to go live until after that event.
When is that event?
January 19th.
Okay.
I mean, there's no harm in doing that. It's not, we don't have anything going on really until then. And that way it'll just, that I can get my hands a little bit dirtier with just being a little bit more familiar with what we have going on. And right after that's done, then I'll start the new membership.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay. Okay. And that way, yeah, I mean, if the things that we're covering, I can just familiarize myself and like go over the videos again and just feel a lot better about what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, so from today, make sure you've completed the invoice settings and the attribute security. Those need a little bit more love.
Yeah, I'm going to go and do that right now.
And then if you have any additional forms you want me to create for you, just send them to me and I'll be able to create them for you.
Okay. Yeah, maybe, why don't we talk about that tomorrow morning? Because I don't even know what other ones we could possibly do. So we'll talk about that tomorrow.
All right. That sounds perfect. Awesome. Well, let me know if you have any questions as you're working through some of those other